What is up, Bitcoiners? Welcome to episode number 10 of Barstool Bitcoin, where we aim to accelerate the world's transition to blockchain and cryptocurrency. Say hello to the fellas. We got producer Krazer on, introed first today.
What up, boys?
Welcome to the show. And we got Wild, Trader, Big Dog. What's going on?
What's up, boys?
Nice to have everyone back on the show for episode number 10. Double digits in the house, boys. That's worth a little celebration.
There we go. Crack a beer.
There
Right
we
before
go.
the weekend.
There we go. So, boys, let's hop right into it. Let's go to last week's predictions. So we had a little over-under here. We had Dan with the under and Weil with the over. Drum roll, please. And Weil was the winner. We actually went up a little bit last week, so that was actually good to see. Wild, good job on your prediction. Dan, keep working on it. We know you got it in you. Don't worry about it. Bounce back this week. And ladies and gentlemen, we will hop right into this week's prediction, but just want to give you a little teaser. Stay tuned to the end of the show where we have our newest segment, Risk It to the Biscuit. Risk It for the Biscuit, which was on last week with Weil, as he speaks to you about a potentially up-and-coming coin that he may think will be great. So stay tuned for that, but let's head in right into the predictions. So let's start with the winner from last week. Wow, what do you think is going to happen this week?
I think we have some juice right now. Like, I see people even trying to call this the bottom, and we're like trying to recover from here. We did get a pullback from 72, I think we hit, was the top. And I think we will get another push, to be honest. I don't know, maybe mid-sevens, like 75, and then we'll come back down. So I'm going to stick with my top. My higher, actually.
So you're going to go with the over back-to-back weeks?
Yeah.
That sounds good. I have you jotted down. You are now locked in with that. Well, there will be no change in your mind. Dan, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, Bitcoin's sitting at 69.38 on Coinbase here. So, I mean, I was optimistic this week, but I kind of thought it would hover around the same area, and I feel the same way for next week too. I don't think we've found the bottom yet. I think it's gonna be just under 6K before we find the bottom. So I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna say it's gonna be under 6,900.
All right, Dan. So back-to-back Wild's over and Dan is under. So, boys, let's just see what happens throughout the week, and let's get this pod rolling. What are you boys looking to speak about this week?
Well, the reason, sorry to cut you off, Wild, but the reason that I'm taking the under is because there was some there's like $1 billion worth of Bitcoin that's coming out of these cold wallets. There was a big thread on Reddit today that showed the owners of a pretty big crypto wallet. There's like 111,000 Bitcoins in there, so that's like just under $1 billion that have been transferring the funds over the last couple of days, and they're transferring them 100 Bitcoins at a time. And people first, like, if you read the whole thread, people think that it's actually like Silk Road, that the funds were related to Silk Road, which is was like the first dark net market pretty much, and where you could like buy and sell all this illegal stuff, services, whatever you name it. But then they did some investigation, and it turns out that the coins look like they're actually related to Mt. Gox. So that would be, we'll see what happens with that, because there's been development in that story as well. Mt. Gox was bankrupt. They lost about like 400 million or 470 million actually to hackers back in 2014. Bitcoin was like about $500 at that time, but there was tons of investors who were affected by that. There was this huge petition against them, and a long drawn out legal procedure to reach a new agreement. And the court actually approved the petition. So it's given the investors a little glimmer of hope that they could recover their lost Bitcoin, and possibly that this is what the Bitcoin's for. So we'll see. It could lead to
I
a
saw
jump.
that. You know what? They are ordered to pay it back, but they have to pay back the value of what Bitcoin cost in 2014, not what it is now. So
Right.
they take a huge win on that. I think it was a couple hundred mil that they would be up actually, which is kind of shitty for investors. I actually know somebody who lost some money on Mt. Gox, and he hasn't invested since. Like that hurt him, and he got turned off since, and he's kind of pissed that he lost it, and that turned him off, and he didn't buy anymore. But I think that's more reasonable than the Silk Road, holdings, because I think they would have got rid of those coins a long time ago. Who would have been holding them? The FBI or something like that? I know in the Silk Road case, the lead agent, I think he was on the FBI. I think we mentioned this. He ended up laundering some funds to his own wallet. He got charged. He pleaded guilty. He did it a second time, and he got caught again, and he pleaded guilty a second time. So he probably didn't know what the blockchain does or how it works.
Yeah.
So I think it's more likely that it is Mt. Gox. I was going to ask you guys a question. When you think Zuckerberg, you guys obviously think Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I know where you're going with this, bud.
Yeah.
Hit him.
Randy Zuckerberg, his sister, just forgot his name, Zuckerberg's sister, they're both Zuckerbergs. She actually joined one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges. It's called Huobi. I don't know if I'm correct saying that correctly, but she joined that exchange as an expert on the advisory team. So it just shows you, like, cryptocurrency, people think it's like disappearing, it's slowly dying, but so many companies, so many big names are joining forces. If you can't beat them, join them. Make your own coin, for example.
Well, I think that's what she's going to be doing, right? At Huobi is working on their new blockchain.
Yeah. Also, I don't know, have you heard of Dfinity?
No.
Nope.
It's created by Google, Microsoft, and Intel engineers. It's actually the biggest private token sale of 2018. They raised $2 billion. And it's an investment. It's about 2 months old right now. And they're creating their own blockchain, I believe, as well. So it's like, you have these big companies and big names all trying to create software and technology and kind of lead with their blockchains. Do you think at one point they'll kind of get rid of the coins and just stick with the technology?
I think it's a realistic possibility. It only makes sense that they would have to do that eventually, because what utility does the coin serve?
Yeah. Most of the time, it's just a dream. They don't do much. They're expected to give higher returns to investors without a utility, like you mentioned.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good stuff coming out, though, about the technology right now. We just saw Yahoo Finance integrated Bitcoin, Ether, and Litecoin trading, so that's pretty huge. They didn't touch any of the other digital currencies like Bitcoin Cash or EOS or anything like that.
Just the bigger ones.
Yeah, but they did add them, and also we saw Square, which is a huge payment processor. They won a pretty big patent for a crypto payment network, which would allow merchants to accept payments in any currency, including Bitcoin. I mean, that would be massive.
Yeah,
that's really cool when you think of that, especially with Square, because that's definitely, especially for people with smaller or medium-sized businesses or anyone getting started too. So
a lot of these
businesses
Bitcoin
at that level
already
really
using
awesome.
Square.
Yeah. I think they're paying out in Bitcoin too, as well. If you want that as well, which is pretty dope. We've talked about a lot of different cards, and I saw this one that's integrated with Dash. It's called, pulling it up, Fuse, I believe. And the way it works is it has like an e-screen on it, so it actually shows your balance too. And I think you could change cryptocurrencies on the card. I don't really know how that technology works, but if you have a card with a balance shown on it, I think it's pretty dangerous, especially if you have a lot of Bitcoins. But there's so many people trying to go and create this credit card or debit card. And like I said, I'm waiting for the first one to come out, and I'm going to hop on that. I'm really excited to see if it would work in the stores and stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be great, but I don't think that would help the price of Bitcoin at all, because then a lot of these hodlers would start spending their Bitcoin much easier.
Yeah, but then if stores started to accept it, people would kind of think it's real, because I still have some friends saying crypto's not real, Bitcoin's not real, but if I don't need to prove them wrong, but if you can just spend it on day-to-day things, like pay your bills really easily, buy groceries really easily, and that's kind of what the third world needs, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of people would benefit definitely from that. I would definitely, especially when the market is like it is now in the current state, where you're trying not to spend on your credit card so that you can use less fiat, and you have all this stockpiled crypto. That would be pretty useful to pay some, a lot of the smaller things off with Bitcoin or whatever currency you're holding. I'd probably pay my rent in Bitcoin if I could, because it would just make sense. It would be way easier, and I wouldn't have to actually be selling at this level. And when you sell, you have to sell a minimum amount, let's say $25K worth, and it's not really practical if you want to average in when you're selling. So if you could just pay bills with that, you're constantly averaging your sells.
So here's the question for you boys then. If you were saying we can pay bills, maybe pay rent with that, what happens when the value fluctuates, goes up or down? Would you have to adjust your rent? Would you have to how would that work? What do you think of that? Or would it be a consistent, I don't know, let's say
for the sorry, go ahead, finish the question.
Let's say your one Bitcoin's worth $6,800 this month, right? And let's say your rent is, I don't know, half a Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But next month the Bitcoin's worth $15K. Does your rent stay at half a Bitcoin and now it's $7K, or how would you have to manage that each month?
It would be pegged to it would work just traditionally how it works. Let's say at 6,800, that would make your rent worth 3,400 a month, and then Bitcoin goes up, well, your rent still costs 3,400 a month, so you just be paying them less Bitcoin.
Okay, that makes sense.
But same dollar value.
Yeah. Okay.
And boys,
I just wanted to make that clear.
I got some big news here. We're about to hit a road trip here.
A road trip.
Yeah. We're gonna hit up. Yeah, you like how that sounds, Krauser?
I like road trips.
Just wait. Well, it's more of an air trip, because I don't think we could get there by road.
I was gonna say, I've never been to White Castle still.
Well, where we're going, it's even better. They might not have those tiny little burgers, and they definitely don't have some of the stuff that Harold and Kumar were using to work up an appetite. But North Korea is hosting its first ever international crypto conference, boys.
Wow.
So
international?
Holy shit.
We're going to hit up Pyongyang and party with Kim Jong. That's what I'm thinking.
Book it in.
I wonder the visa requirements. Are they just accepting people, or?
Well, they've traditionally had such a difficult process to get into the country, especially if you're an American citizen. You're actually banned to go if you're American, unless you have some type of special credentials,
or unless your name is Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman, right? if you're doing something like that, they'll let you go in, but it's weird because the conference is actually expected to attract a lot of experts from all over the world. And if you think about it, let's go to North Korea, Who cares? That would be awesome. We're not American. But their tourism industry is so underdeveloped that it is a bit worrying, like thinking about who's gonna go there and then how it's gonna be. The U.S. banned all their citizens from traveling to North Korea except in like super special circumstances. So we'll see what happens. The event is scheduled, and there's like a meet and greet with the business leaders of North Korea. So that would be pretty cool to do that.
That would be an epic trip.
Yeah, I wouldn't have another reason to go to North Korea, so that, that would be pretty cool. But like you said, I don't know about the safety. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not that scared of places, but I just think of that film. What was that movie called? I don't want to compare it to the movie The Interview. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With Seth Rogen?
Yeah, sorry, say that again?
Yeah.
With Seth Rogen?
Yeah, with Seth Rogen, and like,
yeah.
all the stores are just like fake fruit, like
Fronts.
fake food, like
Yeah.
they got actors everywhere and stuff like that. They could even be fake business leaders. You're not meeting the real ones most likely. You just never know. But no, I'm just kidding.
It seems like North Korea is pretty big in crypto. Well, that's what like people have been speculating about. I remember like earlier in the year, there was a report that like South Korea issued that North Korean sponsored hackers sponsored by the country of North Korea had stolen billions of won worth of cryptocurrency. So I guess that would be like in the millions of dollars by hacking exchanges. So it seems like maybe there is some validity to that, and maybe North Korea is a bigger player than we think in crypto right now.
Mm-hmm. This is a couple months ago. They state that North Korea could own as much as 11,000 Bitcoin, about 120 mil. That's probably on the low end too, so that's a lot of Bitcoin still. Talking about different countries, we talked about Iran last time because when the U.S. doesn't agree with you, they kind of shut you down, and they're doing that. The heat between U.S. and Russia right now. So Russia is trying to sell some arms, and the U.S. has, I guess, closed their ability to use SWIFT, and that's what they did to Iran. So now Russia, there's some fucking badass people. They're going to make a gold-backed cryptocurrency to sell their arms, their firearms. And they said they would have interests from China and the Middle East and things like that. So, stopping them from using SWIFT won't stop them from selling arms, US. They will sell their arms to every country they can.
Damn, that's scary. Man, you just ruined the whole energy.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about North Korea. I just
gotta throw them in there.
Somewhere.
Oh, Jesus.
Boom.
Well, to take a little pivot here into something more positive, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Deloitte. My whole family, I mean, I'm from like a brown family, so we only got like 4 options of what we could be. It's either like doctor, lawyer, engineer, or accountant. So pretty much like 99% of my family's accountants, and a pretty large firm, Deloitte. They just completed a new research project into blockchain investment from their clients, and the bottom line of the research is that these huge institutions are ready to invest into blockchain technology, into crypto such as Bitcoin. And the research is like part of this big push from the firm Deloitte, into exploring how their clients can benefit from the investment. So as a result, the research was done on like a pretty big scale, covered over 1,000 clients across different countries. I'm not sure how many countries, but across multiple countries. And they pointed out that 84% of the firms surveyed believe that blockchain will see adoption soon enough, and that it'll broadly scale and reach mainstream adoption. So that would be pretty good. I mean, those are some of the most educated and wealthy people in society right now. I mean, it's kind of hard to think how it's going to impact Bitcoin specifically, but it seems like it would lead to an investment in Bitcoin, wouldn't you think so? Or I
Sorry,
guess not.
I just didn't hear the last part.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, and 84% of these firms that were surveyed think that blockchain is going to see mainstream adoption, then I mean, it doesn't necessarily correlate specifically to the price of Bitcoin. It might not impact the price of Bitcoin specifically, but I mean, it could lead to an investment in Bitcoin. That's what you would think, right? Like, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's kind of just building the infrastructure, and like we have these tiny steps moving forward. I think it's like kind of building our snowball effect right now. Like so many different sectors and companies are building these infrastructures and like ecosystems for cryptocurrencies that it might not impact Bitcoin now, but I think it will, because when they start to invest, I think the first asset they touch is Bitcoin, right?
Yeah,
When they go from fiat to crypto, it's fiat to Bitcoin,
yeah,
and then they could choose whatever they want from there. So
that
I
would make
think they
sense.
would be
Like,
pushing it.
go like first into Bitcoin. That would be first on their radar, and then after that, altcoins would probably come next. Maybe even on an
Yeah,
institutional level, also.
yeah, and then maybe their other coin, like another company, the New York Stock Exchange, their parent company, they announced they're building BAKKT backed, and it's a ecosystem for cryptocurrencies. So they're pushing in that direction too. So like just seeing all these small things, and like we're seeing every day that there's like a new blockchain coming out, or a new like big Fortune 500 company just dove into cryptocurrency and they're pushing a new, blockchain. So it's like, everybody's getting onto it. Everybody has kind of a different agenda too. You see people hating on it, but behind the scene, they're working on something huge crypto related.
Yeah, I
I
mean, you mentioned on our last episode that the main demographic for crypto is like younger people, more so millennials, like people born after 1984. Um,
Yeah,
but I think it does mix down, and investors will, if they have a good investment vehicle where they can get involved with blockchain, they would. But Coinbase just did a survey, and they found that 18% of students own cryptocurrency, and they surveyed like over 600 students, and they took people from NYU, from Cornell, from Harvard, from Penn. So some of the most well-reputed schools in the U.S., and they basically prove what you were saying on one of the previous episodes, that is the demographic. I mean, if you think about that, 18% of students own cryptocurrency. That's pretty high.
yeah, that is.
That's like one of every 5 students. That's really high. And you think if that's where it's starting now, imagine where it's going to be 5 years from now. If that generation is
Yeah,
getting older, they're the ones going to be even more influential when it comes to that too. So
yeah, smart students. The other fucking half is probably partying or just does not give a shit, but that is a huge number.
And they were saying it's partly due to the fact that most of the schools now, in most of the, I guess, bigger schools or traditionally better funded schools with have like a wider range of classes, all have at least one class on blockchain or cryptocurrency.
who knows? Maybe even in the future, you see all these guys donating money. Maybe one day you'll see a former student athlete donating some Bitcoin back to the schools.
Yeah, that's true.
We can only
That
hope
would be
so.
pretty cool.
And I
That would
mean,
be pretty
JP
cool.
Morgan, they're always in the news about Bitcoin, and they keep like flip-flopping. Remember when Jamie Dimon basically called Bitcoin a huge
Bitcoin is scam.
scam, and then they found one of their subsidiaries buying a whole bunch of Bitcoin after he just like dumped the price, and now the JPMorgan CIO came out and said that blockchain is going to replace existing technology. She said that her name's Lori Beer, said at a press conference in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, that blockchain will replace existing technology in a few years, and that they're going to see a greater and wider use of blockchain. So, I mean, they just keep flip-flopping their opinion, but at the end of the day, I think
I agree, though.
Yeah, so do I, and I think we know what their actual stance is on crypto, right? Like, they're just trying to figure out a way to make money off it, and while the technology develops. But I think they're going to be a big part in building out the infrastructure for blockchain. Definitely, like, from the payment side of things.
Yeah. Well, it's like Dubai claims they're going to be blockchain, all fully blockchain, 100% blockchain by 2020. But just talking about like negative news and like people fucking throwing down Bitcoin. You guys saw Jordan Belfort go live on, I don't know what news outlet, but he started stating that Bitcoin's a scam.
Yeah.
He even went as far as like saying like, I was a scammer, so I know how scams work. I looked into it and like, he scammed $200 million. Right now, Bitcoin's $120 billion in a market cap, and the total volume was 4.5 billion today. So it's like, I don't know, get off your high chair. You're not that, like, this is way bigger than him, and he can't compare, like, his scam to Bitcoin. I just found that really stupid, to be honest.
Well, I think he's pushing his own sales stuff now. Like, that's what he's doing. So he's pulling a Trump, you know what I mean? He's just getting his name in the news and stuff, right? Like,
just trying to get some face time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, there are parts of crypto that I mean, as we talked about, we had a whole episode about crypto scams, So there are parts of blockchain that are scammy for sure, and I think it's our responsibility to, as early adopters, to phase that out, of the industry.
Yeah, man. Scams and like they're only getting smarter and smarter. We did talk about that, but I'm gonna share one more article. It was a lawsuit filed against AT&T. So Michael Turpin, he had a hedge fund, and they had about $24 million. I don't know where they put it, like what exchange they put it on, but he ended up losing that to SimSwap. So what happens is, somebody will call your phone provider, so in this instance AT&T, and then they'll use a social engineering, which is basically acting as the person, and then they'll take the personal information, they'll kind of fraudulently like convince him to give the information, and you got to really be a smooth talker, or maybe keep trying. However they do it, they have some great scripts, and he ended up losing 24 million because from a lot of these websites, even your Gmail and Facebook, you can restart the password from your phone, like via text. So if somebody hijacks your number, he can start restarting everything. And he can restart the two-factor authentication from your phone, I believe, if he has your email as well. So he lost $24 million, and now he's suing AT&T for $224 million. His $24 million plus $200 million in damages. Only reason I'm bringing it up is because this happened to me a couple days ago, to be honest. Not the $24 million part. Didn't lose anything. I got fucking SIM swapped, and I just didn't think that would happen to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just so out of the blue. I got an email from a provider saying that somebody's trying to activate a SIM. And since you know what? I give it to our whole episode on scams and the research we did for that, like I knew right there and then somebody was trying to SIM swap me, and I called them right away and I said, you know what, somebody's trying to scam me. Like, I know this is very common in cryptocurrency. And then the lady was so nice. She's like, she's like, let's set up some security. So I set up a PIN code, a security question, and voice recognition. And she's like, make sure you reply to that email saying, what's it called? Don't change any information. So I replied as well. And she's like, you know what? we got you. Don't worry about it. This will not happen. So I'm like, okay, I'm very like confident that I just stopped this guy. And I'm like, you know what? Let me make a video. So I'm making this video now just because he tried to restart my Instagram, my Facebook, and my Gmail and activate the SIM card. So I start making this video, and I made another video after it on how to win a Bitcoin with crypto candles, if you want to check that out. But anyways, while I'm making these videos, I just looked over at my phone. I was probably busy for 30 minutes and I saw no service. So I'm like, yo, this fucker got my phone, especially after I just talked to this lady. And then by the time I noticed it, my Facebook was hacked. He changed my name to Perry Piper and he put a dick pic as my cover photo. They took it down very quickly, and I ended up having... So if that happens to you, instead of trying to fight back for your SIM service, like back and forth, what you should do is report your phone stolen right away, because what they do is they freeze the SIM card. And you could do that without talking to somebody. So I reported my phone stolen, and he couldn't get any more texts. I restarted my passwords, and he couldn't get any more texts to restart them back. Because I know instances where people are like fighting back and forth for the account, back and forth. But yeah, just freeze that shit. And then I called my phone provider, and I'm like, what happened? And they gave me some of the logs, like some of the things he was trying to do. First of all, he's been talking to my phone provider company for the last 8 or 9 days, almost every day. He started phishing them with how much was my bill. And maybe from asking that question, he got more information from them. You know what I mean? Like my address and things like that. And then he went on to say that he was my ex-wife, which I'm not married, saying that I'm an abusive husband and that I was holding the phone number hostage and I wouldn't give it back. But I was the only person on my account. So, that just shows you like social engineering, like really... if you can really get into somebody's head, they'll give you access to your personal information or whoever's it is when they shouldn't be doing that. So, yeah, long back and forths. I got kicked out of some groups. He did send a lot of, I think because he didn't get anything, he's like, screw this guy. I'm going to just fuck his shit up. So,
well, I was gonna say, maybe the picture he made, your profile picture, was a bit of an improvement. He might have done you a bit of favor there.
Other than that, he's a piece of shit.
No, we were talking before the show, and you were telling me about this while, and it's like so crazy that he definitely just retaliated because he thought he was gonna get some Bitcoin off your phone or off your computer or whatever, and then he's just like, oh, fuck it, like I'm just gonna fuck him up because I couldn't get any money out of it.
Yeah. And I think he might have maybe checked, because I looked into it, maybe he was checking my conversations to see if I shared any passwords between any close friends or anything like that, and maybe downloaded them. But that's what I was thinking, like, thank God I didn't have any nudes on there either, you know what I mean? He would have definitely stole those, because, you know what I mean?
What a disservice he'd be doing for the public if he leaked those.
So it's important, guys, like, secure your crypto, because this shit is out of your control. Like, especially after I called right away and I said, don't make any changes, and I added 3 levels of security, and she's like, we got you. Like, she really sold me, you know what I mean? And seriously, I was just like, wow. And in the video I was making, I was telling the guy, like, come for me, bro. Like, I just, secured my shit. And while I was making it, he got it. So I was like, holy shit. And what I did was then I checked everything. Like, and I'm still working on securing things, which I'll share the process on what I'm doing. So you guys can
I was just going to say, in a future episode, you should share with our listeners what the whole process is for having airtight security on all your crypto. Like we talked about cold storage and stuff, but that's really just the basics. Like people will execute really elaborate, essentially identity thefts, to like get into your IP, into your computer or your phone or whatever. So that would be super helpful to our listeners.
Yeah, because some things are just out of your control. So you got to make sure your security's tight, like to the brim. And yeah, we'll definitely share that in the next episode or two.
Sounds
Other
good.
than that, it was pretty scary. You know what I mean? Like I just remember that episode where not that episode, that time where my friend, Marcus, he was in Panama. We were all in Panama, and he tried downloading Camtasia, the crack for it. And then he said he got hacked, and he was fighting with that hacker back and forth. Like, he stole his email, then he got his email back, then he stole it, then he got his email back. And they were going for like all night because he started taking more than one accounts, and he did take crypto from him. Then he found out a way how to just freeze everything. So I think in those situations, you just freeze it. So no more emails or outcoming emails or password lost, no more texts, just freeze that shit.
Well, that's good advice and a crazy story. Like I said, we'll do a segment in a future episode on crypto security. I know we have some different guests that have been wanting to hop on the show, so I think we'll also get some people on the show who are more technical, who can explain that from a different angle too, so our listeners can really benefit.
Yeah, that would be great. I would, just learning more about security. After like looking into it, I've been doing some noob things, and I think like I'm pretty tight on security. Even like when that happened, I checked like my wallets that aren't even on my computer. I checked my other computer, which is in a different room, which is not connected to any of those emails. And it's like, I just checked everything, and you just want to make sure everything's safe. Because everybody
your
works
guard
hard.
up a bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
It's totally normal.
Yeah, definitely. Boys, I'm at the office. Traffic's about to hit here, so let's start to wrap things up. Why don't you hit us with the risk it for the biscuit?
Okay, this coin is called Interstellar Holdings. It was called that, actually. There's a swap. So if you're not familiar with what a swap is, they're basically changing, like a new team came in to lead the project, and they're going to swap those coins for this coin, which is called Huzu now, Huzu. So it is Interstellar Holdings essentially, but it's just changing it to a new coin, new website, new masternode details. So what the coin does is basically it's like an investment firm that you buy into, and you have the crypto asset, and they invest into like crypto. They invested into a crypto exchange and other crypto products, and you get returns, and then the coin goes up, obviously. So I first bought the coin when it was like 200 satoshis. It went to 1,000 satoshis, and I'm still holding it for some reason, to be honest, when I should have bought low and sold high. But great news is that it's 3 satoshis right now.
Damn.
You know what I mean? And the highest was 1,000. So that's about 300. When I did the math, it was like 330x. It was the 330x, and usually with swaps, these coins like seem dead. Like everybody sells before the swap or buying right after the swap. It's usually when you get it the cheapest. So especially if this coin, like the new team pushes and they do what they say they're gonna do, and the website looks nice and the white paper looks nice, then yeah, from 3 sats it should move. But
yeah, and they're actually good investors, right? I think that's what it really comes down to, because it's essentially just a security.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like I said, this is a huge one for risk it for the biscuit, and I wouldn't expect this to blow up anytime soon because of where the market is.
I like that.
But in the meantime, you can set up your masternode and start earning coins.
Oh, nice. They have masternodes too.
Yeah, 55% a year.
Winning.
Oh, that's a good one.
Awesome. Well, that's it, boys. I think we're ready to get out of here. We will see you guys on next week's episode of Barstool Bitcoin. Thanks again for listening. We enjoyed making this episode for you, as we always do. And we're going to keep bringing the heat. We got a couple people who have emailed us trying to get on the show here. So the more people who listen in, the more people will benefit, and we'll move forward on our mission to accelerate the world's transition to blockchain and cryptocurrency. So thanks again for listening. Make sure to check out barstoolbitcoin.io for the show notes section. All of the resources will be in there, and use our affiliate links to support the pods. Thanks again, friends, for listening, and we'll see you next week on Barstool Bitcoin.